Welcome to Datasaur, the web application that helps users derive meaning from their survey data through statistical analysis and data visualization. When accessing the web application, users are presented with a landing page and the Datasaur logo. They can scroll down to view some of the features in the application, such as the data visualizations, analysis, and data input. There's also a demonstration video that takes them through many of the features in the site. To get started, users can either register an account or log into an existing account. Registering is a straightforward process of just entering in your details. These can be changed at a later date on the account page. On the login page, enter in the details that you registered with. You can also choose to tick the Remember Me box so that you do not need to log in again next time. If you've forgot your password, you can enter in your email address and an email will be sent with a password reset token that expires after 30 minutes. After logging in, you'll be directed back to the landing page and can now get started with importing your survey data. You have two options for this: importing a file or manually inputting data from scratch. I will first demonstrate the manual input of data. You'll be prompted to click on a box to add your first column. In survey data, the heading of the column represents the variable name. Let's give our first column the variable age. After entering the first column, the table is created and you can start adding in values. Let's start to add some ages. You may have noticed that the help text changed after adding in data. This is to alert you that there are changes on the table that have not yet been saved. Let's try saving. We first need to enter in a title for our survey. As you can see, our changes have been saved as shown by the green text. Now let's try adding a new column. Let's give this column the heading City. We can add some more values as before. When we are happy, we can choose to proceed to the home page. This is the user homepage where all of your surveys are displayed. This is our survey that we have just created, and we can see that we currently have no graphs or statistical tests for this survey. We're able to go straight to creating graphs and statistical tests, but let's first view some quick stats on our data. This page provides some general statistics regarding the survey data. We can see that we have 5 rows of data and 2 columns. These 2 columns are displayed individually with some statistics such as the type of data and number of unique values. Numerical data will display additional stats such as average and standard deviations, while categorical data will display the quantities of individual groups from highest to lowest. Now let's try importing data from a file. Here I have some sample data that represents customer feedback at a restaurant, containing a mixture of data types. There are approximately 600-700 rows of data. I've specifically not started it on the first row or column to demonstrate how the application will identify where the data starts. We are now showing the data from our file. As you can see, the application has recognized where the data started in the file. All of the columns and rows of data are displayed so that you can check they are correct. You're also able to edit your data, such as changing the values in cells. It's possible to rename a column, create a new column, and also to delete columns. You're also able to get a feel of your data by organizing it in order. For example, if we click on the age column, all of the ages will be displayed in ascending or descending order. Let's proceed to the home page. If you'd like to go back and edit your data, it's possible to do so by clicking here. You may have noticed that we have some notifications. When data is imported, A series of statistical tests are run on the variables, and any significant results are alerted through these notifications. If we hover our cursor, this is explained. One thing to go over before proceeding is how this is done. Since a large number of statistical tests need to be run, this can take a considerable amount of time. Therefore, the running of statistical tests is carried out in the background, allowing you to proceed with other tasks. This is done using a Python thread. When the tests are finished, notifications will be displayed on the home page like so. As this survey was relatively small, it is already completed. Now let's view these findings. The statistically significant results are displayed in tables. Assumptions are provided with each statistical test, and you are urged to check the assumptions are correct before accepting the result of the statistical test. This first one is a good example of a test that should not be accepted, since the assumption is not met. The chi-square goodness of fit test compares the distribution of a single variable with what your expected distribution should be. It will assume an equal distribution if none is specified. If we have just male and female, then we might expect an equal distribution of 50% each. However, seeing as our data also has non-binary as a gender, it is not realistic to assume an equal distribution, and therefore this should be rejected. If you would like to specify your own distribution, you can do so on the survey dashboard page. For now, let's accept a few statistical tests and delete the rest. If you want the application to rerun the automatic statistical tests, you can do so by clicking here. Before proceeding to graphs and tests, let's quickly view the quick stats that have been generated for a larger file. Again, each of the column statistics is displayed, giving you a quick general overview of your data. Now let's proceed to graphs and statistical tests. When clicking on a survey, you're taken to that survey dashboard page. This is effectively the home page for that particular survey, displaying all graphs and statistical tests relating to it. As you can see, the statistical tests we saved earlier are now present here. I'll first demonstrate the process of running a statistical test. The application currently supports 4 statistical tests. This page populates as you select options with different information and options depending on the type of statistical test that you want to run. Let's choose the Kruskal-Wallis test. You'll be shown some information regarding the chosen statistical test, explaining the use, assumptions, and types of variable. The Kruskal-Wallis test takes one independent and one dependent variable. You're able to hover your cursor over the types of variables allowed, which will display a description of that type of variable. If you try choosing a variable that does not meet the specified criteria, you will be displayed with a message informing you of the error. The result of the statistical test is calculated. A null hypothesis is suggested, the p-value which is compared against the default significance value of 0.05, and a conclusion saying whether to accept or reject the null hypothesis. If unsure about any columns, it's possible to hover your cursor and be provided with an extra description. You can choose your own title or can go with the default title automatically generated. It is also possible to export any statistical tests by clicking on Export to Excel. Now let's look at what graphs that we can create with our data. The application currently has 6 different chart types, which have mostly been dictated by requests and the feedback that was gathered during development. These graphs were built using D3. Bar charts are good for representing categorical type data. They are usually used for displaying the amount or frequency of each group, but it's also possible to graph against a function of aggregation or numerical data. For example, we may want to see the average age across different groups. You can hover your cursor over the graph to get specific values of individual bars. There are 2 options when saving. We can either export the graph, downloading it as a PNG, or we can save it to the survey dashboard. Let's first export it. This is useful if you want to include graphs in things such as presentations or publications. Now let's save it to our dashboard. The saved graph will display a small thumbnail. It's possible to delete the graph or view and edit it. A histogram is used to display the distribution of a numerical variable. Using a linear scale axis, graphs such as histograms and scatter plots are not able to display non-numeric data. I've therefore filtered the variables to only offer numerical type variables in the select box. Because of this, an additional help message has been provided which explains why you may not see the variable that you are hoping to graph. Let's view the distribution of age. With linear scale graphs such as this and scatter charts, it's possible to choose your own ranges. The graph can also display negative values if they exist, with the axes moving correspondingly across the chart. You're also able to choose the number of bins that data is distributed amongst to get a more accurate understanding of the data. Pie charts are very similar to bar charts in terms of the data they display, but the format being quite different. An additional legend has been created to help keep the graph neater. For specific values, simply hover the cursor over the segment. Scatter charts are used to display two continuous variables against one another. Similarly to histograms, the axis ranges can be adjusted and can also display negative numbers. This type of chart can also double as a line chart by applying a connecting line to the data. A map chart displays a density map of the count of the number of respondents from each country. Users are able to view the entire world or zoom in on a certain continent. Again, tooltips are used to give specific values of each country. The final chart is a box and whisker plot that takes numerical data as the primary variable. It's possible to plot this against another variable to see distributions of responses against that variable. Again, tooltips are used to provide specific values such as the quartiles, median, maximum and minimum. Following creation of graphs and statistical tests, it is possible to export the project. By clicking here, the survey data, graphs and statistical tests will all be written to an Excel file. The first sheet displays the survey data. The second sheet will show the list of statistical tests written into a table. The third sheet contains the graphs. When you have lots of surveys, it may be difficult to find a specific project. A search field is included which will filter the surveys with the given input. Thank you for your time. This project is undergoing continuous development. If you have any questions or suggestions, I would love to hear them. Goodbye for now.